So Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is coming out to the Switch Friday. Let's talk about it. Alright guys, welcome to the crew. I've got my buddies Taylor and Danny, and we're going to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Guys, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well, Raven. How about you?
Doing nicely. Taylor, how about you?
Doing well, thanks for having me on.
Alright, so guys, game's coming out this Friday. I'm pretty hyped because I'm a big Xenoblade fan. I actually started with the original Xenoblade. Randomly one day, was watching E3 and I saw Xenoblade Chronicles X and I was like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, there's an original Xenoblade game? So I immediately ran to GameStop, picked it up, not knowing it was super rare at the time, picked it up, and then came back home, played that game, and from that point on, I just knew I loved this series and was going to love the series. So that's how I've come to love Xenoblade. So, Danny, I know you're new to Xenoblade. You haven't played one before. So, are you hyped? Are you ready to dive deep into this game?
Well, Raven, I would be honest with you. I was kind of skeptical about it at first, but when I saw the trailer and I saw the Nintendo Direct, I was just like, whoa, this has a Kingdom Hearts / Final Fantasy vibe to it. I can dig it. Let's get into it. I'm really excited about it, to be honest. And after seeing like some gameplay, I'm definitely going to pick it up on Friday.
All right, nice, man. And yo, Taylor, I know that you are a big Xenoblade fan, just like I am. You started with the original as well. So, what are you feeling about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition?
Was dumbfounded when this game was announced because it was one of like the highest games on my wish list. Like, I always wanted an HD version of Xenoblade Chronicles because it was on the Wii, it was on the 3DS, both very low powered systems. And seeing it in HD and being able to actually play it, I was really excited about that. And I'm just really hyped for it to come out on the 29th. I can't wait for it.
Yep, same. I am ready to play. And, you know, like, one thing I like doing is, like, recommending Xenoblade to people. But one thing I have to keep in mind is, like, the battle system. So, Taylor, you're very well acquainted with the battle system, just as I am. But usually what I would tell people is, like, hey, maybe check out the game beforehand, because, you know, the battle system is kind of interesting. It's not the straightforward action-style battle system, and it's not exactly turn-based. It's kind of this hybrid sort of thing. So, Taylor, if you were to describe the battle system to someone who doesn't really know what it's all about, like, how would you describe it?
Well, Xenoblade is kind of like an action RPG, but it has some turn-based elements as well. Basically, I would describe it similar to an MMO, kind of like World of Warcraft, if you ever played that. On the bottom of your screen, you have a list of special attacks that you can perform, and those special attacks have a cooldown, which means you can't just do it one after another. You have to wait a little while in order for those attacks to recharge. And the main way to do a lot of damage in Xenoblade is using your attacks in the correct order. For example, one attack might knock an enemy over, and then another attack might deal extra damage to enemies that are knocked over. Or you have probably one of the best examples would be Shulk's Backslash, where if you walk behind an enemy and then perform the attack does double damage, which means you have to position yourself in the arena correctly, and you have to be constantly watching where the enemies are facing, what the enemies are doing, and also what your teammates are doing as well, because they also have their own attacks that the AI are performing. So there's a lot to keep track of, which can be intimidating for new players, but I feel the game does a fairly good job at showing you how everything works early on, and easing you into the more complexities of the battle system.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely can get that. So, Danny, based on what Taylor just said, as well as what you've seen so far from like the trailers and everything, how are you feeling about the battle system? Is it something that seems a bit more inviting to you? Are you a little bit put off by it?
You know, Raven, I would have to say, for a person that's never played the game and never had that specific battle style, I was definitely intimidated at first, but now hearing what Taylor has to say, it definitely provides a lot of insight, and I'm ready to welcome any challenge with an open slate. And it kind of reminds me of like when I used to play Fire Emblem Three Houses and how that battle style was. It kind of resonates the same feel to it, so I think I'm ready for the challenge.
Absolutely. And I am ready to just dive deep into the battle system again. And just it was a lot of fun back in the day, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun when it comes out too. So another thing, along with just how the game plays, it looks great too. Like, it honestly looks really nice. I've been liking how they've updated the graphics. For anyone who's actually played the Wii version or seen pictures or images of the Wii version and compared them to the current version that's coming out, night and day, right? So, what about you guys? How are you feeling about like the look of the game? So, like, Taylor, what's your impression?
I actually have mixed feelings about the graphics in this game. There are a lot of elements that look a lot better. From the little gameplay I have seen, I haven't really been keeping up with all the trailers. There are some things I think that actually look better in the Wii version. For example, in the very first scene, where you find the Titans fighting, instead of it being a stormy, dark night, they decided to have it at sunset instead, which creates a far different atmosphere than the original. But when it comes to details, like the HD remasters, the new models, everything looks really great. I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis for me, whether or not a scene looks better or worse than the original. But for the most part, a lot of what I've seen is a lot better than the Wii version. It's more just a wait and see for me, where I take a look at all these elements and judge it myself.
Okay, yeah, I could definitely resonate with that, because, and that's actually a really good point that you brought up, the fact that the opening scene of the game is very much different from the originals, and how that kind of changes like the dynamic and the aesthetic, and it gives a different feel to the player at that point. So, Danny, what about you? How are you liking the graphics, not liking the graphics? What have you thought so far?
Honestly, Revan, when I saw the trailer for it and I saw the beautiful graphics, I'm just like, okay, this is exactly why I got the Switch, because this has the same feel for me, and I might be biased here, but this has the same feel to me when I saw the Breath of the Wild, and when I started playing it, and the open worldness, and the beautiful crisp colors, and like you could see daylight, and how quickly it turns to sunrise to sunset, and like you could feel like it's like you're inside the game, like you're experiencing all the same things that they're experiencing in real time, and I love it, and I'm really excited to try this game out.
I hear that, dude. I hear that. So, while the game does look good and the battle system seems to be the same as it was before, what they did seem to change, though, is the quest system in the game. Like, they've updated the quest system to be a little bit friendlier, it's a new quality of life kind of thing. Taylor, have you seen much about it?
I haven't seen much about it, but really I'll take any improvements over the original. The original's quest system was one of the worst I've ever seen in gaming. It was so difficult to actually do a completionist run of the original Xenoblade, because so little information is presented to the player, and quests disappear as you play the game, which means if you miss a quest, it's gone forever. So, I remember I attempted a 100% run, it didn't work out very well for me, and it was a bit discouraging because I ended up missing some quests. I don't know all the details of the new quest system right now. I'm kind of in the dark about the game, I like to experience things blind. But really, any improvements, fantastic. Like, I'd love to see them.
Yeah, so like from what I've seen from the updated quest system, I haven't seen too much myself either, but from what I've heard and seen around like the internet and everything, it looks like they just made it easier to know where your quests are, when they are, as in like what kind of time frame you'll have in order to do them, because like you said, there are different events in the game, no spoilers of course, different events in the game that change things up a little bit, so it's not possible to do certain quests that you had access to before. It's a welcome change. I can't wait to see how they actually incorporate it. Yeah, it's looking really cool. Last thing I want to talk about, Future Connected, that is the addition to the game, the epilogue, if you will, to Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and apparently it's going to be around 20 hours or so. So that seems pretty decent for what it is. It's nice that they're adding something new onto the game, especially one that's fairly old. And I just want to know, like, what do you guys think about them adding something more to the game? So, Taylor, what about you?
It's really interesting that they're continuing a story that has essentially ended already. I was actually pretty shocked that they announced it. As for the length, though, you mentioned 20 hours. I would take that with a grain of salt, though, because in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they also released a DLC expansion, Horn of the Golden Country. And I remember playing that, and a lot of that expansion was essentially mandatory side quests. There wasn't a whole lot of actual story. I would say like maybe 40% of my time in that DLC was actually doing the main story, whereas the other 60% was doing side quests in order to unlock the main story. So I'm very curious about with Future Connect is if they have a bulky, substantial story, or if it's going to be kind of bogged down with side quests again.
So, Danny, I know that you haven't played Xenoblade, but the fact that they even have something extra along with the game that we're getting, like, what do you think about that?
I think it's more opportunity for me to actually enjoy the game and not just completely rush it. For me personally, it's better to enjoy the game, play it in the moment, play it at my own pace, not feel like I'm on a time limit where I have to get this done at a certain point of time. And I think an expansion, I think it will be good for me, just for me to like fully enjoy it. And I'm really looking forward to see what this game is all about, especially for a newcomer in the series.
And, you know, I thoroughly hope you enjoy the game as much as a lot of other people have. Like, I know I have really loved Xenoblade Chronicles, the original, and I'm hoping to just sit down and enjoy it yet again. I actually played this game, I think, 2 times over for the original, and that's how much I liked it. And I put in like maybe 80 hours or so in the first playthrough, and I was just like, nah, I'm gonna do it again. So it's a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it. That being said, we're pretty much done here. So, Danny, where can people find you on social media if they so please?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at FreestyleD17 or on Instagram, The Black Deadpool.
Alright, and Taylor, you don't have any social media, but any final comments, thoughts, anything like that?
Just really excited for this game. I consider it one of the greatest RPGs of the last decade, and hopefully with this re-release, it's the best in this decade too.
Alright, well guys, hopefully if you're picking up Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, you'll enjoy it. I thoroughly hope so. But that's gonna be it for us. I will catch you guys later.